Um, hello, YouTube, Twitter, and hopefully Instagram. It's Matt, and we're here with another episode of the Lowdown with Matt. This is episode 5, and tonight I'm sure to have with me 2 members of Cleveland's own Kill the Fall, Spiro and Raymon. How are you fellas doing this evening?
Good. Wonderful. Good. Thanks for having us.
Good. Oh, absolutely. Like I was saying before we went live, the purpose of this really is to bring some much needed attention to bass players, and also just to bring attention to some new music, some music people may not be familiar with, and it's just good for the industry in general. So I guess we can go ahead and get started here. So the first question I would like to pose is this, Spiro, how long have you been playing bass?
I would say I probably I got my first bass when I was about 14 years old.
Okay. Did you take lessons, or are you pretty much a self-taught player?
Well, at the time, I was in school with a lot of guys that were like really musically literate. They were really good. And I remember thinking that it was going to take me too long to get good at the guitar, but they needed a bass player. So I started playing, and I found a guy that was down the street from the school I was going to, and he was like an absolute character, like an absolute drunk. I remember I would go there with my bass. He had all of these beer cans on the floor, and we would learn. I learned to play bass in this house. He didn't even have heat. He had like a Coleman grill or like a Coleman heater. It's like a very fond memory that I had, but I learned how to play. That was one of my first teachers. I was like 14, 15 years old. And after that, I had a couple other teachers. But playing really is like kind of the best education, playing live and being able to feel out your band and the style you like.
Absolutely. So do you play any other instruments, or are you strictly a bass guy, or how does that go?
I can thumb around on the guitar. I mean, if Ray asked me to do some extra lines in the guitar, I don't think I could do it. But I'm strictly bass. I mean, it's always what I've liked playing. Like once I started getting proficient with it, I always loved playing the bass.
Gotcha. So are you a finger style player, or do you use a pick, or is it situational?
For me, it's pretty situational. I learned to be a finger player. My second bass teacher was like very strict about playing with your fingers and just being able to kind of dial in with that. I always played with my fingers unless I was in a punk band or in something like that need a little more punch. Since being in Kill the Fall, I play probably more with pick than I do with fingers, but now with some of the new tracks we're writing, I'm playing a lot more with my hands than I have been before.
Gotcha. So tell me a bit about your gear and your live setup. What do you usually play? What do you play through? That kind of thing.
Sure. So in the last year, how many setups have I had? A couple. So Ray and I have been like good friends for a long time. So we just constantly go back and forth, and we've really tried to figure out a good way to match our sounds with the band, so it really has like a lot of cohesion. So I was playing with I had like an Ampeg cab, and it was like one of those old Harman Kardon heads. It was like a solid state head. And then, but now we're playing with basically just like an Ampeg, just all tube. My bass is essentially a Fender Jazz American. It's like one of the only kinds of bass I'll play. I've had that bass now for years, and it just sounds good with everything. But the rig we have now, I think, is great.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's an SVT. Yeah, sorry, it's an SVT Ampeg tube amp.
Nice. So, do you have any kind of personal preference yourself between 4-string and 5-string, or even greater string count basses?
I had over the years, I had a 6-string, I had a 5-string for a little bit, but I really just prefer a 4-string. I mean, if I needed to, like, if I needed the range, I'll play with a 5. But I think for me personally, a 6 is kind of unnecessary. But like we were
Right.
saying earlier before, if Jocko only needed 4, I only need 4. I'm all right. I should be able to make do.
Good point. Well said. So, musicians tend to collect gear. Um,
Yeah.
do you have anything really unique or unusual in your arsenal?
Um, I don't think I have anything particularly odd. And the reason for that, I mean, I have like the random pedals, right? Like, you have like a flange pedal or an envelope filter or things like that I've picked up over the years, but nothing amazing. I've always been the kind of player that really likes the raw sound, and I think that's one of the reasons why this band really works out for me, because Ray, when he plays, is also a very raw sound person, right? There's no effects, there's no pedals. It's really just energy, rhythm, and frankly, just, the emotion of your playing. And to me, that's always been like very attractive. I find that I'm not smart or creative enough when I have too many pieces of gear, and I have to remember how to dial them all in. And, you know, God forbid, my fiance gets into my house and messes with my pedals when she's cleaning, and then it's just like a nightmare for 35 minutes trying to reset everything.
Well, this is a question that's actually directed to the both of you. What or who are some of your musical influences?
So I would say probably my biggest musical influence is my uncle, actually, my uncle John. When I was like a little kid, I remember he used to just play the old Satriani albums. And I remember that's where I first got my real taste of like a bass player, like with Satriani, Steve Vai. I mean, obviously they were guitar players, but hearing those bass lines in the background made a huge influence on me. And then I think from there, obviously, when you're young, you really like Flea, because he's just like very aggressive. It's like very unorthodox. But then when you start listening, I got into the punk scene. I mean, I talked about Jocko. I loved him. But then, get into like Minor Threat, Black Flag. That's just where I really gravitated to. Really, I went from really liking showy guys and then really liking that hard rhythm section that wasn't necessarily complicated, but it keeps everything together. And I think that anybody that's listened to Rage Against the Machine album, they're not complicated lines, but they're certainly catchy lines.
Mm-mm. Absolutely, absolutely. What about you, Ray?
I would say my biggest influences are bands like the Misfits, Tool, Pearl Jam, Minor Threat. I grew up listening to a lot of punk, the Minor Threats, your Misfits, that type of punk, and I also was a huge Seattle. The Seattle scene was a very huge influence on me. So I think that in my music, a lot of that does come out, is that the Seattle grunge era with Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and bands like that, and then mixed in with that punk of the Minor Threats and those type of bands, Black Flag, all those bands. I would say that's the biggest influences on me, and of course, Tool is a huge influence as well.
Gotcha. I was going to say, this past week or so, getting ready for this, I've been sort of going down the Kill the Fall rabbit hole, so to speak, and some of the early stuff. I really hear a lot of Ramones. I hear some, necessarily the Celtic influence. I hear some Dropkick Murphy, stuff like that. And it was interesting to hear you saying that Pearl Jam and the Seattle sound is an influence, because I when I heard the snippet from Let It Breathe that's coming out toward the end of the month, I hear some Pearl Jam in that. So yeah, it's always interesting, hearing people talk their influences, and then their music and really hearing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I think that you can't really escape. What you grew up on, what influenced you, in some level, is always going to come out into the art. Never, obviously, I read everything. I never have anything in mind when I'm writing. It just comes, from the heart, just an emotional writing. But, obviously the influences are going to seep through that every time. So I'm not surprised you hear some of that when you're listening to the Killer Fall stuff.
Right. So this is another question really for both of you guys. What was the very first concert you attended?
Man, the first concert I ever saw. I think it was, I don't know if you know the band Meshuggah. That was the first band that I ever saw. And that was another one, right? It's just like rhythm, drums, I was listening to all these polyrhythms. And I just remember that is like a very strong memory in my mind. But that was like the first show that I ever went to. I mean, maybe there were other ones, but obviously they didn't have an impact. That was the one that I remember.
Yeah, for me,
what about you, Ray?
Enough, I would say, like, from my memory, I mean, I think that one of the first shows that I went to was one of the shows that I was actually playing in. And I didn't do when I was a teenager and that type of thing. I didn't really go to a lot of shows. I didn't really have the means to go, so I just didn't really. Actually, I take that back. The very first concert I went to was not just one band. It was actually Lollapalooza. It was Lollapalooza, and on that was the first time Rage Against the Machine was on the small stage, the second stage.
Oh, I remember that.
Side.
Yeah.
And it was Green Energy. Primus was on that. Trying to think, I can't really remember all the bands that were on there, but I do know that one of my first concerts was Lollapalooza.
Gotcha.
I don't know what year. So, I have no idea. Whatever year Rage Against the Machine was on the small stage.
So, in the course of your musical careers that you've had, have either of you had the chance to meet any of your musical heroes?
I met Flea once, but he's probably the biggest one I've seen. But I would say that I've never had like really big musical heroes where I'd like really needed to meet them. I think that for me, the bigger people were the ones that taught me the skills on how to play, the ones that taught me, how to really just not lose it when you make a mistake, or learning how to really make your sound come out. So really, I would say like my second instructor, his name was Alfredo. He made like a huge impact on me and how I played. I've never been a hero worship guy. It's just never been a thing for me.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I'm the same way. I don't really have any people that I would say are like heroes or even people that I look up to as far as music's concerned. I would say it's more of an inspiring thing. There's definitely artists that inspire me and want to make me create more and set a high bar and that type of thing. But I never really, and I mean, even with my first band I was in, we did a ton of touring and opened up for a lot of different bands, pretty big bands. We were on Warped Tour, so we got to see and meet a lot of artists that way. But I will say the one that sticks out the most is when Stone Gossard was playing in the band Brad, in between records with Pearl Jam. I went to see them and just went and sat at the bar. The show was over with. I was just kind of relaxing. I was by myself. I usually go to concerts and that thing by myself, especially back then. And Stone came up, sat down, And I ended up talking to him for like a good, I'd say, 40 minutes to an hour, and gave me a lot of good advice on being in a band and being in the music industry. And so that's probably the closest I can answer that question. Is I did get to spend some time, you know, shooting the shit with the guitar player for Pro Jam, which is a huge influence of mine. So that was pretty cool.
You know, something
Very
that
cool.
I kind of think about, something I kind of think about when we talk about the question, like with heroes. So Ray and Ray owns a gym here in Cleveland. It's a really nice gym. It's a jiu-jitsu gym. And, you know, we outside of the band have been playing, or we've been training together for how many years now?
A lot.
A lot. It's just, if you want, you can put like Kill the Fall parentheses old guys. You could do that. It wouldn't be offensive. But I think one of the things that you find in jiu-jitsu, the longer that you do it, is it's the same thing. You don't really have heroes because people grapple so differently. You know, you'll never grapple exactly like a guy that's 100 pounds difference in your weight or things like that. And I think that you, like Ray said, they inspire you, and then, you know, in a year or two, you can watch your favorite guy lose, right? And you realize that they're human. And I
Exactly.
think that's what I learned with a lot of my guitar playing friends and my bass playing idols and things like that. Like, they're people. They worked really hard. They did the shows. They did the grinds. You know, they're not gods. And I think that as soon as you start kind of revering people like that, I think you're really missing the point, right? Because it's about art. It's about your playing. It's about expression. As soon as you say, well, anything this guy does is good, well, you know, we've all heard the later Metallica albums. So.
Absolutely. Well said. This is another one directed to both of you, and that is, you know, what are your hobbies and interests? I know, obviously, jujitsu.
Go ahead. I started all of them.
All right. I mean, really, jiu-jitsu is the biggest hobby, and thing that I love to do. I run the gym, so it's you know, training in jiu-jitsu and MMA and all that is a big part of my life on a daily basis. I like to play chess, and that's about it. I'm pretty boring. I play music. I train jiu-jitsu. I get beat at chess a lot, and that's about it. About as interesting as I get, really.
Yeah, I don't.
Walk in the, you know, go for your hikes and stuff.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're both pretty boring. I mean, it's the amount of time that like work, training, and music has, like, it's really hard to kind of balance. I mean, that's like, I think probably the trick as you get older is like figuring out where that balance is, right? Because like I think we all know, like,
Oh,
that really good guitar player that all of a sudden he quit, right? Well, he got a girlfriend, or he got married, or he got a kid, right? Like, you
yep.
know, they fall off. So the time to do extra things is, you really have to be regimented with the time that you have and the goals that you set for yourself. So, you know, at the risk of sounding like a repeat, I mean, most of the time that I have is either talking with music with this guy, playing, training, jujitsu, and work. I mean, if I have any extra time, I like cooking, but you know, it depends on the day. I'm not cooking every night.
And if you love what you're doing, that's,
Absolutely.
you know, there's really not much of a
Oh,
need for
yeah.
anything else, really. I mean, you know, you're playing music, you're writing music, you love doing that. You're training jiu-jitsu, you love doing that. So, you know, you find what you love, and you never have to work a day in your life or something like that, right? No,
You're still going to work, and it's still going to suck. But if you like doing it, it's going to be worth it. Yeah, so they tell me.
So,
Yeah.
tell me about Kill the Fall. You know, how long have you guys been together? How did the band form? That kind of thing.
Well, the band formed after the breakup of my original band, the first band I was in, which was just like a fast punk band, from, you know, based out of here in Cleveland. We did well. We did a lot of touring. I mean, a lot of touring. We toured pretty much majority of the year we'd be on the road. And then once that kind of ran its course, and I sort of wanted to start, expanding my writing and getting a little more in depth, I thought it was time to get, put that band down and start a new one. And then that's when Kill the Fall came into play. Started writing some stuff that was not as thrashy and punk as the previous band was. And then from there, that's when I met up with Dustin, our drummer. And that came about because I think, if I remember correctly, I put, maybe there was something online or something like that. There was maybe back when MySpace was a thing, a Craigslist, maybe even some weird thing I put up there. And for some reason, people were replying to it. So Chris, a friend of ours, replied to it. He was a fan of the original band. And then he came in, he tried out as a bass player, and he said, hey, I got this guy as a really talented drummer. We should give him a shot. So we did, and the rest is history. We went in and made our first record in 2005. I believe that's when it was. It was the first thing we put out was an EP in 2005. Well, I'm sorry, in 2004, there was a split EP with a band called Elephants out of New Jersey. We did that, and then right after that, we did Immortality Through Ashes in 2005, which is a very different record from what came next, which was The Waiting Process, which is the full length. And The Waiting Process was a little more straightforward, a little more of the punk influence, but Immortality Through Ashes had a little more diversity to it, and then we toured for a few years, and we did some touring. We got out there and got on the road, and then eventually, I ended up, I think, 14 years total with both bands. I had been on the road nonstop, constantly, and it just kind of ran its course. And I felt like I was done with music altogether, and I stopped and sold everything and kind of said I'm done, and went into my career as a strength conditioning coach and all that. And then in 2018, I think I was the one that called these guys up and said, hey, I miss doing it, or vice versa. However it ended up working, we got back together and said, we miss doing it, we miss playing shows, we miss writing. And I had a handful of songs written and ready to go, and Dustin came in and worked his magic on them on the drums, and we got them done. And then again, life happens, right? So the gym started taking off, the tournaments that I was doing, that kind of really got into the forefront. It really took a massive amount of my time. And so I put it on hold again for a while. And then recently here, I really had a lot of things to get out, music and songwriting and lyrics and everything. I had a lot to get off my chest and get out of me in general. So I wanted to make a record. And this time, we brought in Spiro on bass. That's when that collaboration happened. And I really wanted to make, the best. My goal for this, we got together with Bob Marlette and Ryan Williams, and they're doing the producing on all this stuff. And they asked me what my goal was, and really the goal for this was to just make the best possible record that I could make when it came to songwriting, production, playing, everything. Because, I think Dustin would agree. There's things that we love all our records and everything we did, but there's things you look back and like, man, I wish I could have did this a little different, or I wish we could have recorded this a little better, or wish we would have took our time with this. Or for me, the big thing was I wish I would have listened to some other people and maybe brought in a producer to get some different engineering ideas and recording ideas and that type of thing. So this time I got really open-minded and said, hey, I want to listen to these two, because as far as producing goes, they're geniuses. They're two of the best in the business, and it's really showing. They're bringing out the best of us.
Sounds great.
When it comes to playing, they're really pulling everything out of us, and I can only speak for myself, but I know that they're really pulling things out of me that I didn't think I actually had in me performance-wise when it comes to vocals, especially. So that's where we're at now. We have the the single coming out March 22nd, which is it's an acoustic EP, and it's the first single off that acoustic EP. And then at the same time, we're recording a full-length, full album. And that just, I'll tell you right now, we finished drums, bass, and guitar. So just the instruments are on it right now, and it sounds massive and it sounds beautiful. So, and these guys playing sounds amazing, and Bob and Ryan just really smashed it when it comes to production.
Can't wait. So tell me about the songwriting process. Is there a primary writer in the band, or is it collaborative? How does that work?
Generally, with the makeup of how it is now, Ray will usually come up with some kind of riff. He'll come up with some idea that he has. I mean, from time to time, we've all come up with certain ideas, but generally, like with this album, it's really what he kind of has coming out of him, what he's kind of thinking about. But that riff will start as an idea, but after the course of like a week or two, that idea usually changes. I mean, we had one song, for example, that had so many changes. Remember that song? It sounded like a quilt. Yeah. By the end of it, it was like we started at point A, and by the time, like, it was a punk song, and by the time we ended it, it was like a polka song. I mean, the thing just kept twisting around on itself. So it's, the songwriting process is pretty, I mean, like I said, Ray usually starts with an idea, but we kind of just let it grow from there. And I think that's probably one of the best parts about writing with these guys, is that there's a lot of organic growth there, as opposed to you're going to play this, you're going to play this, you're going to play that. And, anyone that's played in a lot of bands has been in a band like that, and it's no fun playing by numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, I'll come with an idea or a song that I have. And even if I have the whole structure of what I think it is, it never ends up what I think it is. Right. Because I know, like, when I write, I know that our drummer comes up with some of the best fucking drums that I've ever heard, and like really good ideas. And that, like, it's not just the typical shit. He comes up with like really catchy, interesting parts. And then same with Spiro on the bass. Like they work well together, and I like this setup in the band now where and it's always been that way with Dustin. I'll come in with a riff or an idea or even a song structure, and he'll hit me with the drums, and it kind of like morphs into something even different than I thought it would be. But adding Spiro on the bass really allows me to not have to think about anything except for writing the song, playing guitar, and what I'm going to do lyrically. These two have complete control of the rhythm section and what's going on there, and it really adds a huge. And everyone's going to hear when this record comes out, and even when the first couple singles hit, they're going to see it's a big change from the structure of and the depth of what we've done previously. There's a lot more, sonically going on with this record. And it's, because of what these two bring it with the rhythm section, it really adds a different dynamic.
Gotcha. So, I mean, I think this next question we've largely already answered, but I'll go ahead and pose it anyway. And that is, is Kill the Fall anything approaching a full-time thing? And if not, talk about your day jobs.
Well, it is something that is, for me, it is definitely, for all of us, it's a full-time thing. We're working pretty hard on trying to get, the momentum going with the band and pushing the band pretty heavily. But we still, we still have day jobs. So I run the gym.
Right.
I run RTSC Training Center. We are an affiliate under Dante Leon, who is like right here in Toledo. So we're both here in Ohio, which is great. So we get to train with him on a regular basis, which is phenomenal. And And Spiro is
Yeah. So
a lawyer.
yeah, unfortunately, I'm the one with the boring job. Yeah, I'm actually an immigration lawyer. So if you have anybody in your audience that needs any help, I'll just do a little side commercial here, a little free advertising. But no, so I focused on immigration law, and this guy's making fun of me. He's talking about his gym and how good it is. But look at all these medals, though. So at least he's not lying. It sounds like a wind chime back here every time we knock our head back. But
it was either going in front of this or the squishmallows over there. Probably shouldn't be the squishmallows.
But yeah, so that's my full-time job. Now that's unfortunately the thing that took me away from music is that I thought I should go to law school and that would be a good idea. It wasn't, but that's why I'm getting back into the music, and here we are.
So, and this is, again, something that's really directed to both of you. What would you say, if you can narrow it down to one, maybe two little anecdotes, what would be the most interesting experiences you've had playing live?
Oh, man. Now go ahead. You can take that one.
There's interesting things playing live. There's a lot. There's we've been able to play with a lot of very fun, very good bands. So that's always been interesting. Is who you're meeting. The different people you meet at these shows is always interesting. I don't know. I fell off the stage once. Fell off the stage while playing.
Yeah, I did a show once.
Hole in the stage. I didn't really fall off the stage.
Yeah,
it was in Maryland. There's like a random hole in the middle of the stage, at the invite up. I just literally stepped and fell in. And
yeah,
didn't miss a beat though.
No,
I don't think I missed a beat.
I would say know your venue before you play there if possible. I have played at so many weird places.
Oh, yeah.
I mean the last show we did was the weirdest place.
Not the weirdest place for me.
No, I mean
weird. It was up there.
I remember I did a show one time at like a pool hall, and I was in a really aggressive band at the time, and I was like, we had the show with like some miscreants that showed up. These guys are shooting pool, and there was a birthday party on the other end of the bar, and they were upset that we were doing this show. So I don't know if they thought there was going to be like a rock band or a classic rock band. It ended up being like a hardcore band that really bad. So just know your venue, and also don't change your strings the night before you do a show. I did a show one time where my guitar player, it was like kind of like melodic metal band, and he had changed his strings, and I remember he was just hammering those strings, and he popped two strings while we were playing and didn't bring a backup guitar. So the rest of the show was just the bass and the drummer playing. So don't get cocky and think that you can just change your strings the night before. You don't need a backup guitar. That face is the right face. It's very weird.
Gotcha. Wise words.
No, I've enjoyed. I mean, playing.
So that.
Touring is...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that touring has been. It was back in the day when we would be on tour, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely interesting. Every night was interesting. Who you're going to run into, who you're going to meet, and it was always, where you're going to sleep. That's where you're going to end up sleeping. All the shenanigans that goes with it and everything. It was always interesting. Every night was a different story. So that's all I'm saying.
So here is another shared question. if you could give any advice to your younger selves, what would it be?
Invest in Tesla. You know, I would probably say to my younger self, like I spent most of the time while I was in music. I mean, I had a very good time playing, but it was always like goal oriented, right? I was so hard on myself and how I was playing and how I sounded. And I think that like as I've gotten older, I've been more willing to kind of accept the process a lot more. And I think like telling yourself to chill out is kind of like, or like trust the process is kind of like a, I don't know, kind of a basic thing to say, but I think it really is true. And I think that, you know, with these guys, like Ray was saying, like Ray and I have been really close friends for many, many years. So even though I remember when he first picked up a guitar with me in the room and we started playing, I remember I felt like I understood how he was gonna, like I knew how he was playing and I knew how to follow him like very well. I mean, I don't know if you ever felt the same way, but it was just like play with people you like, play with people you care about. Like Dustin, I haven't known as long, our drummer, but you know, he's phenomenal. He's hilarious. When he plays, I don't have to really think about it. I can just kind of lock in. He looks at me, I know what's going on. And I think that surround yourself with people you like and care about the time, you know, really, you know, pay attention to the time that you have. Because one day, you know, you can't tour anymore. You get out of bed and your back hurts. It's a different reality, and you really need to enjoy it and do your best, but you know, have fun and laugh as much as you can at everything because everything's hilarious. It's true.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mine's pretty simple.
So,
live in the moment.
yeah.
Enjoy the moments that you're in. I mean, I think that a lot of time when I would be on tour and I was doing the other bands, I was, you know, like similar thing. I was so goal oriented, and I had such a drive to make things happen that I didn't just sit back and enjoy what was happening at the time as much as I should have. And I think that's something that, you know, the older me would tell the younger me is just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it, because someday it might not be there.
Right. So, you know, we had talked a little bit about this before going live, but do you guys have any suggestions for any other up and coming or undiscovered bands to check out or perhaps reach out to for a bass player interview?
Bass player interview. I know a couple bands around here that I know would be, you know, Beast Killer is a band.
Yeah, they're very good.
But they don't have a bass player. They're a two-piece. But they would be a great interview.
Yeah, they would be.
And Death Weapons is another one. They're another great band from around here. But to be honest with you, we've been out of the scene for so long that
they're all so young now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
We'll do shows.
Right.
And they're wearing diapers.
But like, I don't really know. I'm starting to, you know, look into bands that are coming up and in the area and in the scene and trying to get in touch with people and know what bands are what. And there's some good ones out there. I can't remember all their names, but like I've been listening to some local bands and there's some good bands. But I know those two are Death Weapons and Beast Killer are definitely some good bands I would definitely look into if I was you.
Yeah. And I would say probably for me, there's only one answer. And it would be, like I said, my second bass teacher, his name was Alfredo Guerreri. And he still plays now, and he plays in any kind of band. I mean, I've heard him play every single style of music. I remember he had gone to LA to music school. Then he went to Berkeley, and he really has been like an excellent player, an excellent teacher, a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he made probably one of the biggest impacts on me as far as playing. And I think that there's somebody from the Cleveland area that you'd be worth interviewing. It's him. Plus, he's fun to talk to.
Absolutely, yeah. I will get in touch with you in the next few days and try to get a connection set up.
Yeah.
So Daniel Graham, who was is the bass player and vocalist for an Atlanta-based band called Great Wide Nothing, was actually my previous guest on here, and we do a thing on here where each guest will pose a question for the next guest. And so
Okay.
the question that he posed is, what keeps going in the grind? What is your why?
Wow. That's probably for him and I, since we only stay in a state of grind. That's a good question. No, I'm serious. I mean, you got to think about it from the perspective, like, we have our full-time jobs. We love playing with each other, but when we're not doing that, we're getting our faces pushed into a mat or pushing somebody else's face into a mat. And I think
Right.
that, the goal really is I think what Ray said is important. What keeps you going is that you're surrounded with people that you care about and you enjoy the moment. I mean, you can answer this differently, but I think that at the end of the day, you have to have some aspirations. You have to have some aspirations to be a little better than you were the day before. And I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
everything that I do, him and I both have said this on separate occasions. You lie down in bed at night and you ask, did I do my best? Did I put out something that wasn't there before? And was that thing positive? I think that's the only thing that you can do, because at the end of the day, you could sit on your couch and do nothing, which a lot of people do, right? Some people just go home, they don't play an instrument, they're not interested in anything, they watch TV. Or you can be the other kind of person that says, well, I may be an attorney or I may own a gym, but I also am a competitor or a martial artist or a musician. But if you're going to say those things, you got to do them. You can't just, show up with a brand new guitar and then not be able to play, simple notes. And every time you hit a bass note, it buzzes. So I think that's what keeps you going. It's just hoping that you can do better than the day before.
Anything to add, Ray?
For me, it's really for the people that I care about and that care about me. I just want to make them proud. Really. Just with what I do, how I live my life, going through the grind every day. That's success to me, is making people that I care about and that care about me, or maybe just making them proud to know me. So when I'm dead and gone, maybe somebody says something nice.
They probably won't.
They won't, but but you know what? They can't say anything nice, but they can't argue with the work ethic.
No, they can't argue with facts.
Facts are facts.
So, since this is a series, is there a question that you would like for me to ask the next person in the hot seat?
What caused the fall of Rome?
Okay.
If they roll your eyes, yeah, they're gonna hate me. Everything's gonna be philosophical. So let's give them a historical question. Why did Rome fall?
That'll work.
I'll keep people tuned in.
Yep. So, we know that you guys have a social media presence on Instagram. Do you have any social media type?
Well, we're working right now with an amazing publicist, and she's the company called For the Win, and she's trying to, like, right now, she's doing amazing work trying to just get everything in line for us. We have a website, killthefall.net, that'll be up by the weekend. We have our Spotify. We just got control of our Spotify channel, so we're the verified artist on there, so we can actually control the everything that's the look and everything that's going up there. We have we're doing the same thing. She's getting control of our YouTube page and our iTunes page. So we're on. I know right now we're for sure on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube,
TikTok soon.
We are on TikTok actually.
Yeah.
We're also on Pandora. I know she's working on that. Amazon Music, every platform that there is, we have distribution through that. And we're just right now just looking to get ourselves back, into the grind of that and pushing the new single that's coming out. And then there'll be there will be a single. We don't know which one it is yet out of the 3 songs that are being recorded for the record, but one of those 3 will be the next single as a full band. And I'm really excited about that as well.
One thing we're going to probably start doing in the next few weeks here is live streaming our practice sessions. And honestly, I found that's like been a really interesting thing because like we'll do our sets, right? And we can play around, screw around with what we're doing, interact with the audience and see how, what kind of feedback they have. Because it's a really good way to get organic feedback in real time. So it's something that we've played around with. It's just like getting all the tech in order. Our drummer had a really successful OnlyFans account, but it recently got shut down. So, now we're stuck doing this. So our drummer's the best. So.
Those live streams will probably start next week. And what you can do is, we'll probably have each one of our cameras set up at a different angle, something like that, where each account on social media, his Instagram, the band's Instagram, the drummer's Instagram, you can go there for different angles, different looks, and trying to, get some interesting takes on our songs and hearing us playing them live and do some covers and that type of thing. So we have our live set, and we like to throw a couple covers in from here and there.
Well, I'll definitely be looking forward to checking some of those out.
Awesome.
So I guess, transitioning a little bit topic-wise to the topic of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And again, this is to both of you. How long have you been practicing BJJ?
Too long. Yeah, to be as bad as we are.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Let me check how much cartilage I still have on my joints. How long have you been doing it?
I really don't have a number on that off the top of my head. I'd have to think about it, but probably
because we're about the same, probably about 10 or 11 years. Like we trained separate places. We only met about 5-6 years ago, but like probably about 10, 11 years. I started about probably 2011, 2012.
Yeah,
around there.
I think 2012 for me as well.
Is that when you started?
That's when he did.
Oh, okay. Our drummer's here, so he's verifying. He's fact checking us.
Yeah, he's on a fact check.
Gotcha. So, how did you guys happen to get into BJJ?
My story's sad. I mean, why didn't you go? You're going to have a much better story than me.
I don't know about that. I just got into it because I originally wanted to do MMA, and I wanted to fight MMA and train it and do that type of thing. So I met a guy named Larry that was willing to start, teaching MMA, and it was started with a lot of the striking aspect of MMA, and then eventually, you start learning the ground game. And once I got into the ground game, I fell in love with it. And then on top of that, I started at a very late age. I was much older when I started doing the martial arts because all of my 20s and almost half of my 30s were spent on the road touring with bands. So when I got back and I got off the road, I went into strength conditioning. I was a football coach. I coached football. I was a strength conditioning coach at the local high schools here. And then I got into the MMA, and then which led me onto the grappling aspect. I got into that, and then I just loved it. Kept working at it, and then, like I said, now we're under Dante Leon, which is hands down, the best grappler out there right now.
Yeah. My story is not particularly interesting. It's I was living in Austin, Texas at the time, and I remember I was only there for a few months, and essentially I needed something to do, and I found a gym, and I started trying all these different sports, and I had wrestled a little bit in high school, and I just kind of gravitated towards it, and it's something about it with like how the thought that's required to do it, the connection between the physical, it really just kind of caught me. It's not a particularly interesting story, but I started and I never left. We're really not. It's really doing this interview has really brought out like a lot of like internal, how boring we are.
Well, I can definitely identify with what you were saying. What drew me to BJJ is the cerebral element to it. It really is sort of where the rubber meets the road, mind and body.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So, and would you say that grappling has made you a better performer, or has performing perhaps made you a better grappler?
I would tell you that I have found more similarities between playing music and grappling than I ever thought possible. I think that, you find yourself when you're playing, let's say you're just playing your licks on your bass and you're just screwing around or just playing your guitar. And if you're depressed, if you're paying attention, if you're just a player that just kind of hammers on the notes and says, "Oh, well, I got the distortion on high and I'm just playing," right? That's nothing. But if you're really paying attention on what's coming out of you, your moods will come out of your playing. They'll come out of the way that, you're holding your notes, the way that you're choosing, how you're choosing to move around in the neck. I found that exact same thing exists in grappling. If I find that maybe in my life I'm feeling like I'm not doing what I think I should be doing, maybe I'm a little too defensive, maybe I'm feeling really aggressive in my life and I'm moving too much and I'm getting caught in things. I think that everything we do is an expression of who we are and how we feel, but I think that both of these are very, very artistic. How I move around is very different than how Ray moves around. But like when you train with somebody long enough, right? Like as soon as Ray puts hands on me or I put hands on Ray, like I'll know how he's feeling based on how he's moving, or vice versa. Even mid-roll,
Right.
like he'll look and say, what's wrong, or how, what are you doing? Or I'll do the same to him. And I think it's the same thing when you're playing, right? Like somebody just can't hold the pocket, or he's doing something different. He's noodling around somewhere else. Like I think that they really go hand in hand with each other. And I think that any musicians that are looking to do something different, I think trying something like this will help diversify your playing in a lot of ways, because it's another experience, right? It's like playing a different style of music. You start learning how to do different things, you'll incorporate that if you're intelligent. If you're dumb, you'll just waste your time. But I assume that you're
Right.
smart if you're listening to this podcast.
Right.
Well, thank you. I may have to isolate that and use that as a tag.
Please do.
So anyway, we're getting towards this extravaganza, and I definitely want to thank the both of you for taking the time to do this with me. Much appreciated, and I've really enjoyed getting to know both of you through this. And do you have any upcoming shows or anything that you want to hype?
Right now we have nothing set in stone, but I know starting in April we will be playing Cleveland, Toledo, Columbus, Pittsburgh, pretty much this whole Midwest area. We have some stuff that's getting lined up. Nothing's set in stone yet. We don't have exact dates or exact places, but it's close. So we will be out there playing the new stuff and playing the old stuff.
We're going to have everything online as soon as we're just kind of talking to a couple bands now. So probably in the next week or so, we'll have everything up.
Awesome. So final question of the evening. Cleveland is obviously your hometown. What would you say is your thing about Cleveland?
RTSC Cleveland.
There you go.
There it is.
Right there.
Ray's Gym. That's where we spend most of our time. Favorite thing about Cleveland? I don't know. What do you think?
And what's the name of the gym?
RTSC Cleveland.
RTSC Training Center.
Oh,
Okay.
Training Center. This is Cleveland Online. I would say probably the coolest thing in Cleveland, honestly, if I was going to answer that question without, self-promoting promoting my buddy here, I really, I think it's just the parks that we have, right? Like Edgewater Park, the lake. I think that a lot of people, dump on Cleveland, but we have like this beautiful lake here. And I think that, it's really stunning. So that's, I think, probably my favorite thing about Cleveland.
That and
Go
you
ahead.
guys have the
Sure,
Rock Hall of Fame.
No,
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, there you go. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's beautiful.
the Hall of Fame stinks.
At the Art Museum.
Boring. It's boring. I don't want to see Elvis's clothes.
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, guys, this has been an absolute treat. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Matt, you're the man. Seriously, thanks for the laughs and thanks for having a very enjoyable interview. And I appreciate the time. We both do.
Absolutely, and I wish you guys the very best in this revival of Kill the Fall games, and I look forward to staying in touch and seeing what's next for you guys.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Soon we'll see you in Atlanta. We'll be down there.
We'll be there.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.